In this video, you will see 10 of the most incredible finds of archaeologists, from the huge Viking cave system to the oldest Cypress on our planet. And it is, think about it, more than 5,000 years. Temple complex in France and Dinosaur Bulldog, Mammoth mummy, and Volcano with blue flame. Watch the video until the end. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Huge Viking cave system. Scientists from the Archaeological Institute of Iceland have discovered an extensive system of man-made caves, the appearance of which is attributed to the Viking Age. According to archaeologists, the caves found in the Oddi region were excavated in the middle of the 20th century. The size of the underground system is huge. No studies of such large-scale objects have yet been conducted on the territory of Iceland. To date, a church, a farm, and a priest's house have been discovered here. When Christianity arrived in Iceland around 1000 AD, Oddi was one of the first settlements to build a church. One of the caves which was discovered recently could serve as a natahellir, a medieval stall for cattle and horses. Archaeologists believe that the caves in Oddi can tell a very large and interesting story. During Viking times, Oddi was one of the most important cultural and political centers in Iceland and home to the powerful Oddvitjar clan. Salmundr the scholar, who wrote the early chronicles of the Norwegian kings, was one of the most prominent members of the clan. The settlement developed into a major cultural and educational center where the patron saint of Iceland, Thorlakur Thorhilsson, was educated at the age of 9. Dinosaur Bulldog. Scientists have discovered in Egypt the fossilized remains of an unusual dinosaur with tiny arms and a muzzle like a bulldog. The bones of the dinosaur, which has yet to receive an official name, have been found by experts at the Bahariya oasis in Egypt's western desert. Researchers say the creature was bipedal, meaning it walked on two legs, had small teeth, and very short arms. The predator, whose body length was about 6 meters, roamed the Sahara Desert 98 million years ago. This species belongs to a lizard-like family of abelisaur dinosaurs that flourished during the Cretaceous period, 145 to 66 million years ago, the last time period of the dinosaur era. Abelisaurid fossils have previously been found in Europe and many of the modern continents of the southern hemisphere, but never before in the Bahariya Formation. The discovery is based solely on a well-preserved neck-based vertebrae found during a 2016 National Geographic Society-funded expedition to the Bahariya oasis. This is the oldest known abelisaurid fossil from northeast Africa and shows that during the mid-Cretaceous, these carnivorous dinosaurs lived across much of the northern part of the continent, from east to west, from present-day Egypt to Morocco and further south, in Niger and perhaps even beyond. Abelisaurids were theropods. These dinosaurs are distinguished by hollow bones and three-toed limbs. They walked on two legs. Unfortunately, all of the Bahariya dinosaur fossils collected before World War II were destroyed during the Allied bombing of Munich in 1944. Mummy mammoth with wool and claws. Canadian gold miners found a mammoth baby mummy in the Klondike Gold Mines, Yukon Territory. The remains of a baby woolly mammoth have lain in the permafrost for over 30,000 years. Scientists determined that this is a female and gave her the nickname Nanchoga, which means big cub in hang. The body of the baby mammoth is perfectly preserved, even its claws and wool remained intact. Further analysis revealed that the female lived alongside the wild horses, cave lions, and giant prairie bison that once inhabited the area. Now the body of the mammoth is in the laboratory. Scientists are going to examine it and conduct analysis. The Yukon has always been famous for Ice Age finds. Paleontologists are delighted with this amazing find. Nunchoga is one of the most incredible ice-aged mummified animals ever discovered in the world. Archaeologists can't wait to explore it and make discoveries. Experts determined that the baby was about the same size as a 42,000-year-old woolly mammoth named Luba, discovered in Siberia in 2007. The existence of woolly mammoth in Canada's Yukon Territory has long been known, but 2021 research shows that they roamed there even 5,000 years ago. In the early Holocene, the environment in the Yukon changed dramatically due to climate change. For this reason, mammoth began to disappear from this territory. Milk teeth of young Neanderthals. 3 human milk teeth found in the Spanish cave of El Castillo belong to Neanderthals. Approximately 80,000–60,000 years ago, people of the modern anatomical type left Africa. They were carriers of the Upper Paleolithic archaeological culture. Approximately 40,000 years ago, they ended up in Europe, where for several millennia they coexisted with the Neanderthals living there. They finally disappeared 41–39,000 years ago, but scientists still do not have a final answer in what form their coexistence took place, but it is known for sure that the Neanderthal culture influenced the ancestors of modern people. Milk teeth were found in cultural layer 18, dating back to the transition from the Middle Paleolithic to the Upper Paleolithic. A more accurate analysis showed that the layer was 44,940–42,110 years ago. Scientists concluded that the teeth belonged to 2 or 3 children of indeterminate sex, aged from 4–5 to 9–11 years. They noted that the teeth were found in what is thought to be a butchery area. The children probably lived nearby and not necessarily at the same time. The features of these teeth have allowed paleoanthropologists to identify them as Neanderthal. Moreover, one of the teeth, the upper milk incisor of a child of 4 or 5 years old, did not fall out naturally, but as a result of an injury. Exquisite artifacts from 3,000 years ago. A team of archaeologists from China discovered 6 so-called sacrificial pits. The finds were made on the territory of the famous archaeological site, Sangshindu settlement in the southwest of the country. Artifacts speak of the imagination and skill of the people who lived there between 1600 and 800 BC. The Sangshindu culture is named after a fortified settlement that was located on the upper reaches of the Yangtze River. Archaeologists suggest that here, in the 2nd millennium BC, was the first center of the kingdom of Shu. Ruins with an area of about 12 kilometers square were discovered by chance in the first half of the last century. To date, more than 50,000 relics have been discovered during the excavations of the monument. However, no written sources or human remains have yet been found. The most unusual finds were a box depicting real and mythical reptiles, a statue of a man with a snake's body, and a sacrificial altar about a meter high. It was also located in one of the pits where ancient people dropped their offerings to the sun, sky, earth, and deceased ancestors. The bronze sculpture of the half-snake, half-human is obviously made in full growth, 160 centimeters. The central part, with the body of a snake, the head of a man with bulging eyes, and a large fangs, is mounted on a jug, which in turn is on a square tray. On the monster's head is the painted vessel. The 3 parts of the composition belong to 3 different cultures. The tray belongs to the Zhou tribe from northwest China. The jug belongs to the inhabitants of the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River of that time, and the sculpture itself belongs to the Shu kingdom. The relic proves the important role of Sangshindu in Chinese civilization and close ties with other ancient cultures. Volcano with blue flame. A volcanic eruption or molten lava flow is one of the most spectacular sights nature has to offer. But there is nothing more amazing and unusual than the blue flames and strange magma of the Kauai Jan volcano, located on the island of Java. This unusual natural phenomena is explained by the fact that for some reason there is a lot of sulfur in the volcanic gas of Kavakjan. Even more mysteriously, it is part of a whole complex of volcanoes, but this blue flame, sulfur burns blue, can only be seen in this place. Moreover, this glow can only be seen at night, as it is too weak, although this gas burns at a temperature of 600 degrees Celsius. It turns out that when sulfur comes out of the ground in a gaseous state, it ignites very quickly and forms these incredibly beautiful bluish flames. 1,500-year-old sword. A resident of the village of Pokrovka in the Primorsky territory, Russia, donated it to the Museum Reserve of the History of the Far East, named after a Senium sword whose age exceeds 1,500 years. The man found an ancient weapon during agricultural work. According to an amateur archaeologist, he was plowing a field and spotted a sword. For advice, the man turned to the museum staff. Experts came to the conclusion that the weapons belonged to the era of the Three Kingdoms. This is the period from the 1st to the 7th century AD. Based on the similar objects, the artifact was dated to the 5th, 7th centuries. According to the chief curator of the museum, the sword will be handed over for study and later sent for restoration. Most likely, it will replenish the collection in the magic of the blade hole and become available for viewing by museum visitors. Cypress, which is more than 5,000 years old. The old guy has been hiding in the forests of South America for thousands of years, and among the people, he is called great-grandfather. On our planet, there are two types of oldies: trees that represent clonal colonies and lone trees. The first ones are clones of the same tree. That is, the tree itself can be relatively young and sometimes even like a grove, but its root system is very old. For example, this is exactly what the Pando forest is. According to estimates, this forest is about 80,000 years old, and maybe many times more, although outwardly, the forest looks like a completely young poplar grove. It is more difficult with a single tree. It grows continuously for centuries and sometimes for millennia. Its trunk is the same age as the root system. It is from this category that the Fitzroy, which was nicknamed great-grandfather, grows in the forest in Chile. The great-grandfather, according to preliminary estimates, is 5,484 years old, which means that the tree is older than the previous record holder by about 600 years. That great-grandfather overtook is called Methuselah, and he grows up in the California National Park. Fitzroys are one of the largest trees in the world and belong to the same cypress family as redwoods. Fitzroys grow in Argentina and Chile, but in a very limited area. They are considered one of the oldest trees on the planet. They grow very slowly, but at the same time, they live for a long time. There are many specimens whose age has exceeded a couple of millennia, but great-grandfather managed to break even the records of his fellows. Apparently, he is much older than all the trees on the planet. It's hard to imagine, but this tree began to grow several centuries before real writing appeared. According to research, it appeared among the Sumerians around 2750 BC. Determining the age of such trees is quite difficult. It is necessary to conduct a number of studies. Viking shipyard in Birka. Swedish archaeologists during excavations on the small island of Birka, where the city of Birka, a large early medieval trading center, was located, discovered a Viking-era shipyard, the first find of its kind. In addition to the structure itself, the scientists had at their disposal tools for working wood, grindstones, and numerous rivets. Traditionally, the period from the end of the 8th to the middle of the 11th century in European history is referred to as the Viking Age. This is the time when the Scandinavians carried out military and commercial expansion, mastered the remote northern lands of Iceland, Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and even reached Canada. One of the most famous monuments of this era is located on the small Swedish island of Björk, located about 40 kilometers from Stockholm. There are the remains of an early medieval city with a harbor, a wharf, and several necropolises. Archaeological work in Birka, which is still ongoing, has made it possible to discover a huge number of finds. Only burials, many of which belong to noble people, scientists have identified about 3,000, some of which were subsequently excavated. So, archaeologists at the end of the 19th century found a Viking burial there, which a few years ago geneticists called a female warrior, but this conclusion was soon disputed. Excavations revealed the remains of fortifications, numerous buildings, including the estate of the builder of the first Christian church in Sweden, a large number of household items, handicrafts, and jewelry. This is the first building of its kind discovered, but the finds convincingly demonstrate that this was the shipyard where people serviced their ships. Through systematic research, mapping, and drone surveys, archaeologists have established that Birka was not only an important urban center, but also had great potential in the field of maritime navigation, which allowed for intensive trade. Temple complex in France. Archaeologists have found a large temple complex from the time of Roman Gaul in northwestern France. Previously, in the territories that were once called Gaul, archaeologists have discovered many ancient sacred sites, but the new find seems very important even against this background. Not only is the sanctuary itself quite well preserved, but the surrounding buildings can still be seen. All this together gives an idea of the daily life of both the servants of the temple complex and visitors. The name comes from the Roman name of the Celtic tribes, the Gauls, who fought for their freedom with Rome for a long time. Gaul was called the lands that are part of such modern countries as France, Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. Excavations were carried out on an area of more than 7 hectares. The cult complex consists of a large sanctuary bounded on both sides by a 60-meter gallery with columns. 2 temples, a larger one and a smaller one, are typical Romano-Celtic phenoms. This is the name of the temple of square masonry, in the center of which a whole sanctuary was built, enclosed by an internal square gallery. The figure of the deity to whom the temple is dedicated was placed in the hall. The faithful read their prayers and made offerings in the gallery. A complex of 2 phenoms at once is a rare find. Archaeologists suggest that the large temple was dedicated to the main deity or deities of the sanctuary, the small one to deities of secondary importance. The temples were built in the 1st century BC, immediately after the Roman conquest of Gaul, and they functioned, according to experts, for at least 5 centuries until the 4th century AD. On the territory of the complex, archaeologists discovered a small bronze figurine of the god Mars. It can be assumed that at least one of the temples was dedicated to him. Interestingly, in Roman Gaul, Mars was not so much a bloodthirsty god of war as a benevolent figure, a protector, a healing deity. In addition to the 2 temples, experts unearthed residential buildings and baths with an area of 120 square meters. Baths are an indispensable element of the Roman lifestyle. Judging by their size, they were intended for public use, including visitors to the sanctuary. Rate this video with a thumbs up or down and subscribe to the channel. Leave your kind comments under the video, which I will answer. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone!